Welcome to The Spade, Maverick Transportation's video podcast series. We'll be talking with our own industry experts on Maverick's most asked questions, trucking industry topics, driver interviews, and more. Welcome to episode 2 of The Spade. On this episode, we are going to be interviewing our recently named Driver and Dedicated Drivers of the Year, TJ Hargis and Scott Claiborne. We hope you enjoy getting to know them as we ask them questions about being drivers for Maverick and just about their overall experience on working for Maverick for as long as they've been here. Hope you enjoy. Well, Scott, it's so great to sit down and chat with you today. Congratulations on Dedicated Driver of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
This is going to be a really good opportunity for us to get to know you. So I've got a few questions that I'd like to run through, and just to kind of get started, I know that you started here as a student in 2016. Tell us what brought you to Maverick and kind of guide us to how you got here.
Well, I mean, I'd been in the banking industry for like 20 years, and there's a lot of corporate stuff that you have to deal with. So a lot of times, you know, especially during the subprime crisis, 2008, it was so easily, everything was done on computers, so everything was easily shipped over to corporate, which is East Coast or even another country. And after a few years of just job after job, I needed to find something that was solid, like, you know, you could put your hands on when you're done with it, you know you're done. But then I realized, wait a second, trucking, there's a shortage. I mean, they need 100,000 drivers annually, and that's something that can't be outsourced to another country. So I got my CDL and did a bunch of research, and the one thing that I wanted to do was stay active, try to stay fit, physically use my hands, and, you know, I decided on flatbedding. And in my CDL school, there's a gentleman that came through from Maverick. I think his name was Dave. And he told me it's not for everybody. It's going to be hard, but if you give it 6 months, you work hard, listen to the securement training and everything that we can offer you, you'll succeed.
So that was 5 years ago. What do you think has led to your success and ultimately, you know, Dedicated Driver of the Year? What are some of what's your mantra, if you will, that's gotten you here?
Well, you know, my trainer, Ken Benescu, he always stressed that you should always have some kind of game plan when you get out of the truck, when you get your load, set things up, be ready, and also always try to work smarter, not harder. So, you know, bring things back to the truck, never waste any steps, never do something twice. If you work on that and always try to, at the end of the day, think about, is there anything I could improve? By constantly striving to work harder, work smarter, not harder, and those principles that he taught me, everything just falls into place.
Well, I know that something you mentioned on a phone call with me earlier this year was how you drew a parallel between your previous career and what you're doing now and how things kind of fit together. Explain that to me again.
Okay, yeah. So when I was in the banking industry, I ran trading desks, electronic trading desks. We dealt with derivatives and futures. So you had a market opening. That's like the start of your day in trucking. And you had a market close. And in between the opening and the close, you had orders that had to be filled in an hour, orders that had to be filled throughout the day. The parallel in trucking is that you had deliveries, you know, I've got 90 minutes before this is delivered. Am I going to need my dunnage or those things? When I park there, where should I park? It's very much like running a trading desk. Running a semi-truck, running a flatbed truck is very much like running a trading desk. And it just, as far as time management, that all clicked. So.
Well, to piggyback on what you just said, in your opinion, of course this differs for every driver here, but what do you feel makes a Maverick driver successful? Not just a driver, but a Maverick driver.
I think what makes a Maverick driver successful is you have to be driven. You're going to have your good days and your bad days, and if you fall back on the training and the securement and the safety training, it'll get you through those hard days so you can wake up and have another successful day.
And you mentioned the Maverick way earlier, and that could honestly be kind of thrown around for our entire company on different ways that we do things.
Right.
But if somebody, you know, off the road said, what does the Maverick way mean? You know, how would you describe that?
With regards to securement, it is above and beyond DOT specifications. And that's going to allow you to get down the road, deliver your load, and get home safely to your family, and also ensure that the people driving around you also are safe as far as the load staying on top of the deck. The other thing about the Maverick Way is I noticed this in the flatbedding community. Specifically, we try to help each other out. I think the trainers kind of push that as far as the flatbedding community, if that answers your question.
It does, and I think it truly comes from the top down. You hear a lot here, we are a big family. It's the Maverick Way. We're a big Maverick family. But I know from talking with you, you've probably had a few instances here where you truly have felt like a member of the family.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Can you pinpoint one of those circumstances where you went, okay, this is not just blowing smoke. This is truly a family, and I feel like I'm a part of it now.
Well, just on the way here, every time I see a Maverick truck going the opposite way, 95% of them wave back. I have a good relationship with my mechanics in Portage. Every time they see me, I'm a Cubs fan, so they make fun of that first off, and they check and see how I'm doing. Making sure I'm okay to make sure I'm out there running and stuff is I'm very much aware of it, and I'm very appreciative of it.
Absolutely. So. Well, the big question,
Ah.
Dedicated Driver of the Year. I mean, how have the first few, 6 to 8 weeks been since you've been announced?
Becoming Driver of the Year, it's almost like now I've got to take care of everyone within my division, the guys on the account, and if there's any problems, get my cell phone number, before you talk to Maria, talk to me. What's the issue? I'm kind of like the spokesperson as far as if there's an issue with how we're being loaded, it's kind of on my shoulders to bring it up with my fleet manager, Maria, and then, if I see the general manager on the yard, and try to be 100% professional, corporate, and represent Maverick as opposed to just another trucker that's upset.
Well, and truly, you're an advocate now because ultimately there are going to be newer drivers that might be a little shyer, a little less likely to bring up a concern or a challenge. And so I think it puts you in a really good spot to be that bridge, to be able to say, hey, if you need something and if you're a little shy about talking about it, come to me, talk to me about it. And I think that's a really good opportunity to explain our Black Hat program and our Driver of the Month, Driver of the Year program. We've heard previous Drivers of the Year say, it's not a we're out to get you type thing. We're here to help. So we always like to hit on, the funny stories. Do you have a funny story from your time here at Maverick that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, when I was in the trainer truck with Ken, I was at this one truck stop. So he's like, okay, you need to back in. You're going to have to blindside. So I'm trying to blindside in this corner. It's busy. There's cars going around. I keep stopping and having to try to set up again. He's like, he's starting to get a little impatient because he's been jostled around and I'm all nervous. And I finally back it in, and we're walking to the deli, and he looks at the concrete. He's like, there's got to be 3,000 miles of rubber from my steers that you left on this brand new concrete. And I said, that's from tar. He's like, no, you can trip over this. You've left so much rubber on the pavement. And the transmission, I'm going to have to get that truck serviced because of what you put it through. And he's mentioned that a month ago. He continually, when he thinks I'm getting too big for my britches, he's like, oh, you're Driver of the Year now. Well, do you remember that one time where you left 5,000 miles of rubber from my treads on the pavement at that truck stop?
Backed it in,
but I did eventually, and I completely deny it was just a couple of dark marks, but he swears I took a third of the life of his steer tires off on that pavement.
TJ, we are so excited to be able to sit down and get to know you a little bit better. I know a lot of people around Maverick know who you are. I know you've said you've been here about 14 years.
Yeah, October this year will be 14.
Wow. So this is just a really good opportunity for everyone else to get to know you. You're our 2020 Driver of the Year. So first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
So the first question that we kind of wanted to hit on a little bit was your synopsis, like a synopsis of your time with Maverick. Obviously, that's a long 14 years, but tell us what brought you here and what has brought you to Driver of the Year.
Well, what brought me here was the job I had back home. Carpet mill, 12-hour shifts, all that. Close to home, but dead-end job. you know, me and Jerry and my wife were looking for something we could do. So I had the issue of I had to find something where we didn't have a big pay cut and that I could make an easy transition into. So trucking was one of it. So I put a few applications out there to help me get my CDLs. Maverick was one of them. And, you know, they stood out from the start. So I they sent me to CDL school in Newport, Arkansas, up there at ASU. Went through that program, come back, went through the training, through the building, the over-road deal, whole 9 yards, and so been going ever since. So that was a fun start. Jerry Ann was able to ride with me from day one. She rode with me for the first 3.5 years, and then in January of 2011, I become a trainer. So we made that step, and then October of 2011, I got my first Driver of the Month award, which blew my mind back then, as well as it did this time. But so I did the training thing for a while, and I guess it was 2014. I got a call about a external recruiting opportunity, and I did that for, I don't know, probably right at a year. I really enjoyed it, but it may be a little too early in my career for me to do that part. I still had a lot of get up and go left, so but really enjoyed that. I went back to the truck, and then I actually came inside as a transitional fleet manager in, I think it was 2016, somewhere around in there. Did that for a little over a year. Worked in extended services as well during that time. Very interesting, learned a lot, you know. I thought I knew how behind the curtains worked till I got on that side, but learned a whole lot doing that. And then, we moved back to Tennessee, and I come back to the truck, and 2018 was my first opportunity to go to the truck driving championship. Unfortunately, I got knocked out about 2 weeks before due to an accident that wasn't my fault, but disqualified me. So I was able to go back up in 2019. So that was a really cool experience there.
Well, it sounds like you have a pretty rich history here at Maverick, and I find it interesting that you had the opportunity to not only partake in fleet management and learn how, like you said, behind the curtains work, but extended services. And I think it's really beneficial that we hit on that, because a lot of drivers may not understand how it does work behind the scenes. So, in a short synopsis, how would you explain that to other drivers, having that inside view?
Well, one, as a driver, even before I was able to do all that, I made it a point that when I was at a yard, my truck was in a shop or anything, this is one company that you can come back in the office and sit down with your fleet manager or sit down with an ALM or, whoever and talk to them throughout the day and actually see what they're doing. They can't share all the details, but you're able to get a good rundown. And what that does is it gives you the ability to know what they need from you, because your productivity here is just as much in your hands as theirs. They can only work with what you're able to give them. And so, learning what they need and how that works on the other side, just by sitting down with them. But, one thing I've always told people is, as far as being able to move you the best they can, is you want to give them more available time in front of you once you become empty, rather than use time behind you. Because now they have time to work with, so they can get you that next load, and it may go further most of the time because you've got more available time in front of you.
If you've ever gone back and looked at the logistics video that Chris Coombs filmed a few years ago,
right.
He is very good at explaining that it's not a tenure thing. It's not a how long have you been here. They look at what trucks are available in that area, and it, like you said, the time available, and who can pick up what load. And I think that's interesting that you hit on that, because it kind of coincides with what you probably teach your students when you're training them. And if you could pick maybe 3 or 4 different pieces of advice that kind of coincide with what you mentioned, what would you say are the top 3 or 4 things to know as a student coming into Maverick that could help them be successful?
One is time utilization. Learning how to utilize your time is the whole key. We're restricted by regulations and things, hours of service that we have to go by. So we're allowed 70 hours that we can work which is driving and working. So I tell people, I said, can't look at that as money. Look at that 70 hours as money. So if I'm giving away a bunch of free money, I'm not going to have any left. Be frugal. If you do not legally have to be on duty, don't be on duty, because that's time you can't get back for another 8 days. As far as new people being productive, new drivers being productive, it's about routine. Find a routine. When it's loading, unloading, securing, tarping, whatever. If you have a routine, you put things back in the same place. You know where they're at. You're not, be organized with it. And eventually what happens, your hands start working before your head catches up, because it's just second nature. What I work with my students on the deck and things is wasted movements. So if I'm sitting here waiting, I need to set my trailer up, so I got it set up for the load, but I'm still not ready yet. I can go ahead and pull all the equipment I need out and have it sitting on the deck, so when it drops, I can be out there and I'm not having to walk back and forth.
Well, I know you've told me a couple of stories over the years, but I'd like for you to explain personally how Maverick has been a family-oriented company to you.
Well, like I said, when I first started, Jerry Ann was with me the whole time. From day one, I drove the truck home. She was in it. Over the years, there's just been different people that didn't just talk to us as an employee or whatnot. It was, they come out and, we're friends, family, and they really made us feel welcome. I've basically had two permanent fleet managers since I've been here. Been very fortunate. Rhonda Brignat was the first one, and I now have Lou Schultz. Both of them have done the same thing for me. Back when Jerry Ann was riding with me, it was one of the first family emergencies or events that we had back home when we were out on the road, and her great-grandmother had passed. I'm thinking, it's her great-grandmother. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. And as soon as I called, it was like, all right, we're working on it. They gave me the green light to deadhead about 350 miles and help to our Madison terminal, Madison, Illinois. And that secured the truck and trailer, and then they helped me make sure I was able to find transportation to get home. And that was the first time I heard the comment, take all the time you need. Through the years, people in our family had, same situation, and every time they got me home, it was always take the time you need. And my grandfather, he started getting ill. One thing I've always done is my fleet manager knows everything that goes on at my house that affects me in this job. Every weekend, Rhonda got me home, told me to go spend time with him. Sometimes she'd get me home early, give me a later delivery, but she opened that time. And when the time came, again, she got me there. And again, she told me, take all the time you need. I tried to come back early. She warned me about it, but I did it anyway. And that's when it set home. I was like, that's what she means, take all the time I need, because that was the worst week I ever had out here in my life. Then Lou done the same exact thing. My dad, I was up in Butler, Indiana, when I got the call that he took a turn. Within 45 minutes of me calling Lou had it set up and had a guy headed to my house to shut down and do a 10-hour break when I got there. And he told me, take all the time you need. I listened that time. I took probably about 2.5, 3 weeks off when my dad passed to get everything taken care of. And during that time, I got phone calls, emails, text messages, concern, checking on me, make sure everything was okay. But not once through all this did I ever get a phone call, text, email, message, anything that said, hey, when you're going to come back to work, we got things we need to do. When they said take the time you need, they gave me the time I needed. And you don't find that everywhere.
Well, we've said it a lot. We wouldn't be who we are without you drivers. I mean, you're the heart and soul of our company. And, I'm very grateful to have been able to sit down and talk with you and Scott today and to get to know you a little better. And I know that anybody watching this will be as well, because like you said, Maverick drivers are a different breed. You're professional, you're kind, you're courteous, and you see it every day. And so it's nice to be able to portray that and to explain how all of that works to someone who may not know. And so I hope that you being able to answer these questions is helpful to other people who are trying to learn a little bit more.